Hey there. Welcome to the very first episode of Tech Talk Live podcast, brought to you by Targus, a global technology company. I'm your host, Cynthia Playtez. I head up social media at Targus. On this episode, we'll sit down with two Targus experts, Ron DeCamp, Vice President of Global Product Management and Development at Targus, and Andrew Corkle, the Vice President of Global Marketing and E-commerce. You'll hear their takes on sustainability, AI, gaming, and trends in enterprise on the heels of CES 2024 in Las Vegas. Listen in. Hi, listeners. Thanks for joining us on Tech Talk Live podcast. We have a special guest for us today. We have Ron DeCamp, Vice President of Global Product Management and Development at Targus. Great to have you, Ron.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Ron, you were at CES 2024 in Las Vegas last week. You saw the latest and greatest global tech. Can you expand on what stood out to you at CES 2024 this year?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great show. It was tremendously busy. We saw a lot of different customers and people, and I was able to get out of our booth in the central hall and be able to kind of exhibit and run around and see what's happening. And some of the big things I saw were really around a lot of investment in AR and VR, really in trying to understand what that would look like in terms of how it helps customers and how we can bring solutions to the market. Second thing we saw a lot around was eco and sustainability. Big trend's been happening for a few years now, but I think it feels like it's kind of full throttle now, especially with some bigger regulatory things going on around the world. And then finally, I think gaming. We were around a lot of gaming booths, and there are a lot of talk about the induction of AR and VR into gaming and how it improves experiences. And really, I think helps immerse people and consumers into that space. So it's not just kind of a very two-dimensional, but it's very three-dimensional space. I think those three things were probably the biggest things that stood out to me that were really exciting. And, some of those things we'll bring into Targus as we continue to, evolve our product lines and development roadmaps. But definitely things that we're excited to bring into the world, for sure.
Very interesting trends at that global showcase. Lots of consumer interests in those areas, particularly sustainability. That's an interesting topic I hear a lot about. I hear that word a lot. From a product development standpoint, what does that look like? What are the considerations of eco-conscious business development? What does that look like?
Yeah, we can go a lot of different ways with eco, right? It's pretty easy to just say we're doing something eco in the world, or avoid this kind of thing called greenwashing, right? Where we just say we introduce some level of recyclability into products and try to tick a box. But that's definitely, we're going way above and beyond that at Targus. When we start talking about product development, we talk about the way we manufacture products. We talk about the amount of recyclability we can grow into, right? We've seen lots of major customers asking for us to introduce those products to them because it matters to them for their own businesses and for their own employees. We also see a lot of major countries, right, starting to regulate these things, right? A lot of that stuff comes out of Europe, but also matriculates into the Americas and across the world into Asia and whatnot. And, so you start to see that there's a mandate in terms of recyclability. But in terms of beyond that, the next step is how do we design and create products so it can be better sustained in the field, right? So you start to talk about the ability to maintain a product throughout its life cycle. So can you upgrade it? Can you field service it, right? Without having to take the product effectively, if you have an issue with a product, effectively return it, recycle it, and then replace it with a new one. But if you go beyond that and you design it in a very appropriate way, now you can start talking about how do I service that so I can, disassemble something, change out one part, reassemble it, and maintain use of the primary product in its majority state instead of full replacement. So being more responsible that way, I think, so you're not putting as many things in the landfill or the things that make it down to the ocean, if you will, is definitely something we're going to be looking at and building into our future products. So, and especially with our big enterprise customers and major businesses, they're looking for that as well. And so we're going to make sure we're going to introduce that. We haven't quite drawn a line in the sand as to when we're going to do that, but we're definitely going to do that in the near future.
Absolutely. I think it's important for for enterprises to, make those considerations. And apart from being important, it's like you said, it's going to be mandated at some point. So there's
For
a lot of
sure.
regulations there. And, I'm very impressed with even Gen Z. They're very smart consumers. They do research before shopping, and they're aware of what's going on in terms of, the greenwashing and the fast fashion. And, they're making, those eco-conscious purchases. So that's very important. Ron, you mentioned gaming. So this is very fun. Big topic at CES24, as it usually is. I'm hearing that the gaming industry is bigger than even movie and sports entertainment combined, which is very major. And from VR to AR to AI and ergonomics, what does providing value mean from a product development perspective to the average gamer?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you can go pretty broad on that. The way I'll take it is really about how do you dial up that experience for a customer or a gamer, right? We all know that gaming has been a big trend. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. It's been around for many, many years. And what we saw as it's moved through the pandemic and beyond, a lot of people staying home, the gaming industry just went crazy, right? And so now people sitting in front of their computers, or whether they're game station consoles, right, or the introduction of kind of a HoloLens or this kind of AR and VR, so you have much more of an immersive physical experience, was a way to kind of dial up that use mode, if you will. Right now, you're talking about people that are buying gaming chairs. I even saw demos at CES where you're sitting inside of simulated, Formula One cars or NASCARs, right? So you're moving around, and those specific devices are actually moving you physically as well, and they're giving you kind of this haptic feedback and force feedback perspective. So when you're moving around, it feels like you're really banking around these turns on these racetracks, right, with vibration and whatnot. So the experience and the ability to immerse you into the gaming world is definitely something that's now on point. It's no longer just an emerging thing; it's there, right? And you're seeing users and gamers, especially the more hardcore gamers, spending dollars and really investing in those things because they really want to heighten their experience for that. It's no longer just 2D graphics or 8-bit kind of experience. It's definitely going into much more of an immersive world now. And so when you look at that, it's not just, how do I look at it, but how do I immerse a group of people that I'm maybe interacting with on a game, right? So that's where the VR piece of it comes in. So you can start looking at avatars, you can start looking in space, right? Moving around when you do these kind of massive multiplayer games, right? And you're moving around in groups of people trying to accomplish things. It's really fascinating, and the graphics are really top notch these days. It's making leaps and bounds in terms of improvements over the years, and we are still early in that stage in terms of the world and development of AR and VR. But even today, it's significantly better than where it used to be, and it's really something that we've looked at Targus. We're trying to figure out where we want to enter into that from a gaming perspective. It's much easier for us to look at that and put it into the corporate world, right, into the business and productivity enablement world. And we'll definitely be doing those things. But when it comes to gaming, it's really something that stays on our radar and we want to consider in the future.
And from a protection standpoint, Targus, actually, not a lot of people know, but we work with alliance partners. So we actually make backpacks and laptop bags, for companies like Dell, Alienware, Lenovo, Legion, Acer, Predator, Corsair Scuff, and Samsung. So that was all at the Targus CES booth. For those that missed it, it is on social media, so we would find videos of that. And some of the immersive experiences, we also had like a mobile, we had an AR virtual try-on backpack experience where you can kind of try on the backpack in this AR experience and see what that would look like. So that was a lot of fun. Now on that, so with AI, it's everywhere. Apparently there's like 7 stages of AR, and I think we're only touching the halfway mark according to AI Uncovered. So I'd like to give us a little 60-second history lesson on AI thanks to Simplilearn. So I think it'll bring us to where we are now. So AI was actually coined in 1956 by computer scientist John McCarthy. In 1969, Shaky was the first mobile robot built. He pushed around boxes in rooms and turned on and off lights. We've come a long way from Shaky.
Wow. Yeah, for sure.
In 1997, the supercomputer Deep Blue defeated a world chess champion using logic. 2002, we had our first robotic vacuum cleaner. 2018 to today, we have speech recognition, dancing robots, smart homes, context awareness, and like I mentioned, the 7 stages of AI, right? Everything from rule-based AI to, artificial superintelligence and AI singularity, which is a whole nother realm that we're not going to get into now.
Yep.
Ron, I'd love to hear your perspective. What role does, AI play in like tech development? Like, for example, mobile docking. What does that look like?
So for us, it really is about how do we make sure that our products are developing a better experience for our customers, right? Again, I keep going back to this word experience, right? It definitely guides, and it's something that from a product perspective, you're always focused on, right? How do I deliver a better experience? These aha moments, right? Something that when you look at that as a consumer, you would say, oh, that's pretty cool, right? Or as a business person, you're like, wow, that worked perfectly because it allows me to be able to do things, or accomplish things more quickly, or be able to create a better experience for me as I'm interacting with a group of people in collaboration, right? So you can see, from people working in a hybrid remote position now, some people at home, some people in an office. So you've got distributed workspace people. When there wants to be collaboration, for us, we're looking at ways to improve the user experience there, meaning, how do I get a better sense of what's happening in a room when I'm the one that's remote, right? I think we've all sat in meetings where, people start talking in side conversations because of some topic, and then you kind of get this kind of mumble sound, and you can't really discern what's happening in the room. And you only have one kind of forced perspective of what I'm looking at, right? So, you're starting to see solutions come out on the market and things that even we're working on that allow multi-camera use, so it can start to automatically pan across depending on where it's hearing volume coming from, right? Very simple AI cameras that you see on the market today will move. It'll pan left and right? It might zoom in or zoom out and crop, right? But how do you take that to the next level and take a multi-set of cameras across the room? So when you're listening to audio from a certain person or a certain group of people, and they're starting to look in different directions, right? It'll switch automatically between cameras. So it's always having them look directly at a camera instead of all of a sudden you're looking at the back of their head or the side of their head because they've turned to look the other way in the room, right? Things like that, and adjusting volume up and down automatically, adjusting lighting automatically, right? When maybe, the outside windows that you're next to, it dims out because, there's clouds or something for just a brief moment. Any of that kind of adjustability to improve the experience, that's where AI really comes in, because you don't want to have to, as an individual, do something to make it more conducive to whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? I don't have to want to hit a backlight control button, right? When it all of a sudden got darker in the room, right? I don't want to have to, adjust the audio volume because somebody who's sitting, 3 spaces further down the table starts to talk, and now all of a sudden people can't hear, right? You want all that stuff to automatically happen. So, from a user perspective, it's like I don't have to do anything. It just automatically takes care of it for me. That's where the AI stuff comes in. It is definitely rule-based, right? So the more you use it, the more scenarios you put it through, you can refine those rules, if you will, to make it work better. Those are things we'll be looking at, especially from a docking perspective, right? Docking is about what? It's about connecting people, right? Connecting you to a space, right? Connecting your technology to, the environment that you're moving in and out of, right? So definitely put things that we can do so when you plug it in, it can automatically understand that I used to do this, or I like to have my preferences for my windows or my applications in a certain configuration, right? Primary versus secondary or tertiary displays, all those kinds of things. I like to set automatically, becomes natural for me anytime I move into an environment, right? If I have to do that manually today, that's not the best user experience. If the system can do it automatically for me tomorrow, that's where we can really dial things up and really make things better from a productivity and efficiency perspective.
Awesome. Ron, can you talk a bit about this kind of remote management? Reminds me a bit of MirrorLogic, the mobile docking technology. Can you talk a bit about that and how that fits into the bigger picture of what you just touched on?
Sure, absolutely. Right. We know that people are moving around, and we have our MirrorLogic system. It's our IoT-based platform, right? And so when we have people that are working at their home, or they're moving to a satellite office, they're going to a customer site or whatnot, understanding what they're connected to, their connection experience, are they having any dropouts from a network perspective? We all know that we experience that at times. right? Where you get that kind of ding in the background, all of a sudden you're talking and people can't hear you, right? So understanding and being able to automatically adjust, throttle down, maybe drop your video frames to be able to improve your audio so people can still continue to hear you, even though they may not be able to see you, right? Those are parts of the MirrorLogic system that we're continuing to develop out. It also lets us understand and can help us to really improve how people are using their technology. So if they're, for example, going to, they're visiting a satellite office today for customer meetings or executive meetings, right? When they walk in, right, you start to look at how does AR and VR and AI fit into that. So if it can help me navigate on a campus where I should go, right, for my next meeting, where I should, where I should park at a hotel or an open space for the day, right? Then that's where we can build that stuff into AI and MirrorLogic and really help you as an individual or as a user be able to improve how you navigate a campus. How do you get to places so you're not wasting time walking back and forth or going up and down different elevators, right? And being able to meet people and be really efficient with your day. So MirrorLogic is, we've had it in the market for a handful of years now. We just won another innovation award at CES, right? We're continuing to develop and evolve that, but it's really early stages for us, and we can't wait to see all these other things that we're going to bring out and see how customers are going to react to that in the near future.
Thank you, Ron. The technologies are complex, right? But it's really, when it boils down to it, from a consumer or even an enterprise perspective, is how does this make my life and my day routine simpler, right? So,
yeah, 100%.
Love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else you want to add, Ron? It's been such a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to kind of getting this out there and with our listeners.
Well, yeah, I would think, stay tuned for us, right, as we continue to evolve MirrorLogic out. We're looking at it today as the primary applications within enterprise, right, small, medium business as well. But at some point, we'll start to bring that into the consumer space, right? So, as you guys, want to interact and want to experience that platform, come talk to us, right? We'll be happy to take you through it. We'll get you some demos out and really allow you to see and experience the system firsthand.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ron. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks. Listeners, thanks for joining us today. Today we have Andrew Corkle, the Vice President of Global Marketing and E-commerce at Targus, who I have the pleasure of working with. Hey, Andrew, it's great to have you with us today.
Hey, Cynthia, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So Targus was at CES 2024 in Las Vegas last week, and I hope you recovered or on your way to recovery, yeah. Andrew. I know you saw lots of new innovations and technology at CES, and I'd love for you to expand on that a bit for those who attended and didn't make it out this year. So some trends for 2024 that I know were there. You saw everything from sustainability, Qi2 wireless charging, healthcare innovations, augmented reality, AR. Targus actually had an AR virtual try-on backpack experience at the last 2 CES events. And you can catch it on social media. It did go viral. I guess they thought the guy in the video looked like Walter White of Breaking Bad, but I digress.
That's funny.
We also saw AI, gaming, displays, and more. But what really stood out this year, Andrew? Where did you see lots of buzz?
So it's a good question. I think the biggest buzz, of course, is AI that we've all been hearing about, and we're hearing how it's going to change everything. But how does that really practically change things? That's what everybody's asking. Where is it going to be better for my life, or is it just better for my business, or is it better for my car or my house? What does it have to do with smart home and smart technology? I think there's a lot of buzz around that. So what stood out within AI was a lot of stuff around healthcare. There was a lot of new products around health monitoring systems that are incorporating more and more AI. And I think if you think about it, there were facial recognition systems. Like there was one called a magic mirror, and it could actually detect your health through your face and your facial expressions and check your heart rate and your tension level through a mirror. I mean, crazy stuff. I also walked into a room at CES, and the room had motion sensors. And it's like, yeah, everybody knows about motion sensors. You walk in the backyard or at the front of the house, the light turns on. These motion sensors were so sensitive that they could measure your breathing and your heart rate and your breath rate. So they could actually capture physical wellness. And they were talking about putting these in hospital rooms, and they can immediately alert if someone's breathing stops or regular breathing, like all kinds of stuff. We also saw a lot of watches and phones, new apps that monitor your health, monitor your health recommendations through AI. I even saw apps that tell you to not go to the doctor because you're actually doing fine. You may be feeling funny, but we've measured you, we've measured your vital signs, you're okay. So just all kinds of stuff trying to make your products and your technology smarter. That was one of the big things I saw there with health and of course sustainability. Sustainability was huge there. I think I'll go into that a little later, but there are advances in display screen technology, see-through televisions, or they're calling them invisible see-through TVs. A TV that looks just like a window, except it becomes opaque, and then all of a sudden you can watch the TV, or else you can just make it see-through again, and it's just like looking out a window. No wires, completely wireless, wireless power, wireless video, just pretty amazing stuff. I think practical applications come into question. I think it works great in Vegas. I don't know where I'd put it in my house though. Then you get laptops, gaming computers, processors, all kinds of things around speed, graphics, and AI again. And I think what we're going to see now is all the microprocessors have to be upgraded in order to process all the AI data that we're going to be feeding into them. So every single processor company and chip maker out there is releasing new AI chips. And that was really big. That was kind of on the bottom edge because it's a lot of the B2B stuff. It's not really what a consumer would purchase, but that's the stuff that's going to go into all the hardware that's eventually going to get to the consumers. So a lot of cool stuff, a lot of buzz is out there. That's some of the big stuff I saw, Cynthia.
That's amazing. Yeah, with AI, we're definitely, on the side that's embracing that technology. I know there's a lot of controversy and fear, but, we're excited to see, what the future holds for that. Sustainability, you mentioned that, Andrew. That's $1 million word. What does that really mean?
Yeah, sustainability, is on everybody's mind and on every company's agenda. And if you look at what is the true essence of sustainability, it's really how to slow the rate at which the earth is heating up. It's trying to conserve carbon dioxide emissions. It's trying to get to net zero emissions by 2040 or 2050, a year 2040 or year 2050. And that's all because why? Why are we interested in sustainability? Because we're seeing it now in the past couple of years. Climate change is getting more and more radical. If we don't do something now, 20, 30 years from now, you cannot reverse it. Disasters, climate disasters are going to be becoming more and more regular. And, now we're seeing coastal flooding and a lot of erosion problems. And then on the other side of that, we're seeing where we have too much precipitation, and then there's mudslides and a lot of problems occurring around that, forest fires and stuff. So it's this whole issue of conserving carbon dioxide. How are we going to do that? How are we going to get rid of all the carbon emissions that are causing a problem? And we're going to see more and more laws passed around that. So, sustainability, it's more than $1 million word. It's like a multi-billion or multi-trillion-dollar word, because we're going to see countries passing laws requiring companies to adhere to CO2 conservation methods. And we're going to see laws being passed eventually, maybe not in the next 5 years, but in the next 10 or 20 years, laws will be passed that require individuals like you and me to adhere to CO2 conservation methods. And, this is all about how can we quickly get there? How can we get to net zero? So it's really a huge topic. And I think there's still a lot of people and a lot of companies and a lot of, people don't trust it or they don't believe it, or We've heard about fossil fuel problems. We've heard about getting out of gas and oil, and they don't believe it's ever going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to be mandated by governments at some point here. And so I think it's really important for CES to continue having this as one of its main topics, and that it's important that companies continue to focus on this, because at some point you can imagine you won't be able to ship your product into another country or even into another state if it doesn't adhere to very high standards of CO2 emissions, or that your product is even a net zero product. You've found a way to conserve all the CO2 that you've used to make your product, and you're conserving that and not releasing it back into the atmosphere. And so it's a really, really huge question, and it's just going to become more and more prevalent. So I'm glad that, at Targus, we're ahead of that curve in the sense that we're following this. We're doing the things necessary to bring Targus into a conservation of CO2 and to get to net zero by 2050. So it's not easy. It's very, very hard work, and it takes a lot of focus for a company to do this. But you're going to see, I think, some companies fall by the wayside over the next 5 or 10 years as these things become more and more stringent.
It's not easy. And eco-conscious business strategy is more than a corporate social responsibility, right? It's a global responsibility that should all feel passionate about participating in. We're seeing a lot of greenwashing, Andrew. So for those not familiar with that term, it's companies making claims about going green, environmentally conscious claims about environmental efforts. What can business and the everyday consumer, the everyday person do to help protect themselves from greenwashing?
That's a really good question, because greenwashing, I think, can mostly be blamed on marketing. It's people like me, the marketers, that are trying to hype stuff up, right? We're trying to say, look how great we are. We're going green. I think you have to look at what have we done compared to what we're going to do. If you run at a company that say we are going to eliminate something in the future, compared to a company that says we've just eliminated all plastic in our packaging. Okay, the company that just eliminated all plastic from their packaging is doing a lot more than the company that says they're going to eliminate it in 5 or 10 years from now. And it's things like that you can watch out for. It's companies saying that we're on the road. And I hate to say this, because if you look at some of the Targus information, it'll say we're on the path, we're on the road. It's some of those same buzzwords. But then you just got to look at what have we already done? What have we completed? What have we done to make sure that we are conserving CO2 and we're making the right steps? And so I think Targus has earned the bronze EcoVadis sustainability rating status. And EcoVadis is the world's most trusted provider of business sustainability ratings. So if you see a company that has actually achieved a certain level of status within the EcoVadis sustainability rating, you can trust that that company is doing something to eliminate their CO2 emissions. I think there's also other certifications out there that are important. If you see real certifications from companies that are tied to conserving CO2 or eliminating emissions or reducing the footprint, and it's being measured, then you can rely on that. You can listen to that. There's Thesis, and there are many other companies that are doing really measured results. And really, a lot of our retailers are already doing this. So major retailers in the United States, major retailers like Staples or Walmart or Best Buy and others, are having their vendors measure and report to the retailer what you are doing, because the retailer has goals that they're also trying to hit. They're also reducing their CO2 emissions, and it requires them to hold their vendors accountable, requires us as a vendor to hold our factories accountable. So it just goes on down the line. So there's a lot of accountability that's starting to take effect now. And I think when you see some brands that, especially in major retail and places where it's really monitored, you can trust a lot of those brands. If you go on to a lot of websites or online, you can find all kinds of stuff available at a really cheap price, and you may not know if it's green or not, if it's safe or not. Is it going to be safe for to plug into your outlet on the wall? There's a lot of things that still on a lot of the third-party marketplaces can be unsafe or dangerous. They're just being sold because anybody can get on an online marketplace and sell anything that they want. So you really have to evaluate, make sure that you're double checking companies and what they're saying and what they're doing. Targus, one of the big things that Targus is focused on is sustainability. So if you look at our innovation awards that we won at CES this year, we won an innovation award for the ErgoFlip EcoSmart mouse, which is a ambidextrous mouse. It's made out of 85% post-consumer recycled plastic, and it's using sustainable packaging. And it's good for left-handed or right-handed people. You don't have to buy a special left-handed mouse in order to satisfy the left-handers, either at your home or in your business. And so it's really a great product that is going down the path of eco, but actually doing something. It's using old plastic from keyboards and old mice, crunching it up, and then reforming and shaping it into a brand new product, and then we're selling it. So there's things like that, I think, that you can count on from companies that are actually doing eco and sustainable products. And at Targus, we also do a lot of sustainability with our bags and backpacks and briefcases, where we make them out of recycled water bottles. And that's a really big benefit to recycling, to make sure you're keeping water bottles and plastic out of landfills. And this year we even launched our new bags that are made from ocean-bound plastic. So we partner with a company called Ocean Cycle, and we are recycling plastic that was destined to fall into a waterway and end up in the ocean, or was very close to the ocean. We collect that plastic, we crunch it up, make it into fiber and fabric, and then you use it in bags again. So you're keeping water from actually keeping plastic from getting into the ocean. And that way you're keeping the plastic out of the ocean, keeping it out of the fish, keeping it out of the food chain, where we're seeing all those problems. And I think if more and more companies do that, eventually you can get to a fully recycled plastic environment and really help to clean up the oceans, clean up the food chain, and make everybody more healthy. So you got to be aware of what's going on, and be informed of what you're purchasing, what you're buying, what you're eating, and not fall for somebody that just says, I'm green or I'm eco.
Absolutely. And we don't want plastic in our fish, that's for sure.
No.
And I think it's actually somewhere along the lines of over 17 million plastic bottles that have been recycled to date by Targus, and its EcoSmart line of eco-friendly laptop bags and EcoSmart tech accessories. So we look forward to many more. And just recommending that customers do the research before they invest in their purchases, so they don't mistakenly support fast fashion. So with that said, there's so much to see, Andrew. There's so much to talk about, so many innovations. One trend I'm very familiar with is social and digital media. So that's definitely a trend for 2024 that we saw at CES. Everything from social media to AI and tech like ChatGPT, which I know some folks are scared of, but at some point people were afraid of the internet, just saying. Even with AI and copywriting, you still have to come up with the idea. So I look at it as more of a strategic thinking partner versus a thinking replacement. Social media as a business strategy, only more pivotal for 2024. I'm seeing brand equity, branding, consideration, relevancy, underpriced attention. It's all there. It's a way to bridge the gap between talent and execution. So it's more competitive now, but contextual social is definitely where it's at. So, here on our side, we're looking at what people are saying, how the platforms are performing, how eco-conscious Gen Z are moving the needle on business best practices, and how content creators are leaving their mark on culture and digital landscapes. So we hope to share these insights with you as we uncover the answers together. Well, listeners, thanks for joining us on our kickoff episode of Tech Talk Live podcast. Targus is on a journey to find better, more productive ways to protect, connect, and upgrade your life. So stay tuned for all things Targus on the next Tech Talk Live podcast, and follow us on social. Andrew, it's been a pleasure. Anything to add?
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Cynthia. This is great. I'm really looking forward to more of these episodes. Thanks.
Thank you.